Avast, mi hearties. Shalom, mi brethren. Welcome to my captain's quarters. There comes a moment in every long voyage where a man must take hold of the helm and decide his own course. Please join me in reciting the Shema, the prayer of our people. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto, Leolam Vayed. There be a lie, whispering in every generation that the Torah be fit only for holy days and lofty thoughts, but not for the hard reckonings of daily life. This week's portion will hear none of it. This week's portion does not abide by that understanding. For Mishpatim deals not in poetry alone, but in wounds and wages, in debts and duties, in the weight a soul must bear when his choices spill into the lives of others. Justice not imagined, justice made real. And mark this well, mates. There be treasures in the Torah, not oro falso, false gold that glitters and fades, but wisdom tempered by mercy, law shaped to shelter the vulnerable, and truth meant not for display, but for the long voyage between right and wrong. Set your course by it, because there be treasures in the Torah.
Once hidden, roots we reclaim. From scattered sparks we learn our name. Through longest night the call remains the same. Echoed truth, no time restrained. Treasures in the Torah, long proclaimed. Ancient truth becomes eternal flame. By the Torah's light, we chart our way through darkest night to break of day. Across the seas where exiles roam, the written word becomes our home. What once was hidden now is shown, guiding us where truth has grown. From generations, voice in flame, we rise to walk the path again. Avast, me hearties, welcome to Treasures in the Torah. Welcome aboard.
Mishpatim comes straight after Sinai's thunder to teach this truth. Holiness that cannot be lived is no holiness at all. Here be laws of damages and responsibility, of servants and strangers, of borrowed goods and broken trust. Hashem asks not how righteous man feels, but how faithful he behaves when the power rests in his hands. A compass cares not for a sailor's temper nor his excuses. North still remains north. South remains south. East remains east. West does not change. It always remains west. So too with Torah. Justice here is not passion. It is discipline. Not fury, but obligation. And when courts fail, when kings rot, when law itself is twisted into a cudgel, justice must still live somewhere. Here, thunder fades, and Torah enters the hands of men. No longer shouted from the mountain, but carried into homes, docks, markets, and courts. Empires fall. Courts crumble. Kings betray. Yet this walks with us into Galut, into exile. Which brings us to this week's Sephardic Jewish hero. Doña Gracia Nasi, La Señora. Some justice must be practiced in the open, and some only in the shadows. Doña Gracia, born Beatriz de Luna, in the year 1510, was of the conversos, Jews, forced to wear another faith like a borrowed coat, guarding Torah behind locked doors and careful silence. In her day, a whisper could kill, a candle could condemn. When her husband died, the world expected the empire to pass quietly into male hands. It did not. Under her Christian name, she commanded a banking empire that bent Europe's markets. Kings borrowed, popes parlayed, ships sailed by her word. Banking was the mask. Rescue was the work. But coin was never her treasure. As the Inquisition hunted Jews like animals, Gracia built El Camino de Ficel, the difficult road, safe houses, forged papers, bribes paid, ships arranged, families moved like precious cargo toward life and away from death. Hundreds were saved by her bravery. She fled to Constantinople, cast off the false face, and lived openly as a Jew, building synagogues, schools, and presses. When Jews were burned in Anconia, she answered with boycott, striking injustice where it bled. And she dreamed of restoring Jewish life in Tiberias long before such a hope had a name. Doña Gracia Nasi lived Mishpatim when law itself had become a crime. Some justice is written. Some must be carried on breath, and some is delivered on strings of fire. We would write songs that passed our traditions on to others. And through that music, Hashem was able to topple an empire. Mishpatim was given for days like these, when there is no mountain shaking, no fire in the heavens, only men, choices, and consequence. Torah asks not how pure your intentions be. It asks, Darecho, upright, you conduct stands when no eye watches. Torah talks about consistency. That the person that you are when the public eyes you is the same person that you are when you lock your doors for the evening. Do you repair what you break? Do you answer for harm done by your hand or tongue? Do you restrain yourself when law grants advantage, but justice demands mercy? Those who tear down Torah oft feel free for a breath. Naught strikes them straight away. And so they boast of liberty, crying that they sail by their own compass, for Hashem knows their heart. But Torah warns not of instant judgment. It warns of what comes in time, when restraint is cursed as cruelty and mercy is mocked as chains. Doña Gracia knew better. She took what Hashem placed in her hands. She made herself responsible, answerable for the lives not her own. And so, Mishpatim leaves us with no thunder and no excuses, only the quiet question of whether we will walk away governed by Torah or governed by ourselves and our own selfish impulses as we attempt to build empires of our own strength. Will we be governed by Torah or governed by ourselves in an age where worship of self has eclipsed the worship of Hashem, and obedience has been recast as opposition rather than life? And so the choice before us is plain: to bow to the false god of self and drift out to sea with no rudder, and no hope? No map? Slowly drifting to certain doom. No provisions, no water. That is not sustainable. Or will we submit to Hashem's Torah and live? That is the message of our portion this week. So before we strike the colors and close the ledger, know this, mates, that upon our next voyage awaits Parashat Torah, where Hashem turns from laws etched upon the soul to a dwelling raised by willing hands, gold and silver, wood and cloth, not seized by command, but offered in voluntad, free will. From justice, we sail into presence. And again, I need to reiterate the point of the portion for this week. Is trusting in the protection of Hashem. You know, a side point, I find it rather interesting that many current churches who say they call upon the name of Hashem are busying themselves with watery theology that states that the Torah has been done away with, that God's commandments are no longer valid, that they are under no accountability to walk in his ways. And yet these same people pass an offering plate on Sunday morning, citing the very Torah that they say has been obliterated. If the portion teaches us one thing this week, it is that we need to decide who we will serve. Will we serve ourselves, constantly picking and choosing which commandments of Hashem we will honor and we will keep? Or will we follow God's commandments, trust that Hashem's map is what is best for us? Because his commandments are not authoritarian commands. They are for our own protection. A captain knows his crew, not by numbers scratched on parchment, but by voices answered and marks left upon the dock. If these words have reached you, leave a sign below. Speak a word. Share this chart with another soul upon the sea. For without your mark, we know not who has weathered the passage with us. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yihunecha, Yasa Adonai panav alecha v'yasim lecha shalom. May the wind in your sails be filled with Hashem's righteousness, and may the evil urge plunge straight into Davy Jones' locker. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. My prayer for you this Shabbat is that you will experience for yourself the freedom and the power of Hashem's Torah. Shalom.